Hi, everybody. I want to welcome everybody back and thank you again for all your support. I really appreciate it. We're going to begin with another episode of the Burger Chef Cipher and also talking about the Scorpion Cipher from the year was 1998. And we'll probably be talking about the first Zodiac Cipher, which was the Z408, which once again was the Zodiac's debut cipher that came out on August 1st of 1969. Let me begin with a legal disclaimer. All of the following information contained within this presentation should be taken as statements of opinion and not fact. This presentation is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Any and all named individuals, organizations, orders, sects, religious organizations, and law enforcement groups are all presumed to be innocent unless and until proven guilty in a court of law. None of this presentation nor any statement made herein is meant to harm, nor tarnish, nor defame the reputation of any person or entity mentioned herein. Each and every statement made has been gleaned from many thousands of hours of careful study of the Zodiac ciphers, most recently the Burger Chef cipher from September 27th of 2019. The following presentation is a summary of some of my findings as to precisely what it is that is hidden within the Burger Chef cipher, as well as the Scorpion cipher and the debut cipher of the Zodiac, which was the Z408. The cipher itself does not have a voice, but let me be that chosen one, the messenger, the truth teller. I am simply relaying to you, the listener, what the Burger Chef cipher has told me to be facts. Once again, all individuals, entities, organizations, etc. mentioned herein are to be presumed innocent unless and until proven otherwise in a court of law. I am here only to bring answers as to what the cipher tells us. What I am about to share with you is a seemingly impossible tale of governmental corruption committed by the very elite in this extremely hypocritical, broken, sadistic, and extremely satanic society that we live in. Since at least 1963, the man who raised me, Dick Nolet, followed by his son, and then his son after him, have all served as state-sponsored agents of chaos. They've been given a quote-unquote free hall pass to commit each and every form of mayhem imaginable. They're responsible for everything from unaliving men, women, and children, countless unalivings, as a matter of fact, over the past 63 years, to bombings of international airliners of major acclaim, including the Pan Am Flight 103 over Lockerbie. They're also responsible for major arsons, including the Great Lynn Fire of 1981 and the major fire in Napa in the 1980s as well. And they are also responsible for many of the most infamous crimes committed throughout the United States, spanning all the way from 1962 to the present day. I will be the first to admit that a lot of what I'm about to share with you will seem to be entirely impossible, and my findings to be called quote-unquote delusional. The ciphers are designed to make any person who tries to come forward and to explain all of this to be either guilty themselves or, at the very least, to appear to be completely batshit crazy. So with that in mind, we're going to move forward with another presentation. This here, of course, is JonBenet Ramsey, who was murdered in her home I'm not supposed to say murdered. I just said it again. How do I stop myself? Murdered. So yeah, she was murdered. She was not unalive. She was murdered. In her home in Boulder, Colorado, on the 26th of December of 1996. JonBenet was age 6 at the time, and her murder was a satanic sacrifice committed by one of the most satanic men to have ever lived in the United States of America, the man who I am named after, Richard Dick Nolet Sr. This here is a picture of Adam Walsh. Adam Walsh's remains were found in a place called Yeehaw Junction, Florida, and they were found near a mile marker 126 on the 10th of August of, I believe it was 1981. This boy was also unalived by the person that I called my father. And we'll get into that in this presentation, but also more presentations to come, because the presentation I'm about to do will definitely fall short, because it would to adequately describe what I'm about to share with you would require 1 year of presentations, and I am going to do less than 2 hours of a presentation. So inevitably it will fall short, and as a perfectionist I have to understand that this is just the way it is, that future presentations, if I should be allowed the luxury of living for another year, I plan to do many more presentations on these three individual children. Once again, this is Kevin Collins. This is Adam Walsh. And this here is JonBenet Ramsey, who were all unalived at the hands of my family of origin, believe it or not. So, with that in mind, let's move forward. So I guess we'll begin a little bit. We're going to bounce around today, but we'll begin with actually we'll begin with this and this. So as I've shared in previous presentations, all of this, believe it or not, the unaliving of dozens and dozens of small children over the past 63 years, probably actually hundreds of children across the country, has been allowed to occur by some of your three-letter organizations who walk around as if their assholes don't stink, and as they're squeaky clean, just upstanding citizens of this fucking disgusting country and disgusting world. Anyhow, this here is called The Three Tramps. This photo is a famous photo from November 22nd of 1963. It's entitled The Three Tramps. And what you have here are three men who were described to be officers of the CIA, who are dressed in order to appear as if they're homeless individuals. They were rounded up, according to some reports, in the railroad yard, which was above the grassy knoll. What's important about this photo, though, is this man here is the man who raised me. This is Richard Dick Nolet Sr. He's 21 years old in this photo, and he's the one with the sunglasses and the chubby cheeks in the background here. As you can see, he raced around. He even left the car door open. He swung the car door open, and he knew the media was going to be here, and he wanted to be a part of the action and definitely wanted to be included in the photo because he is one of the stars of the day. As the gunman who was on the grassy knoll, he is the man who gave JFK his quote-unquote lobotomy. And that's not my words. That's how it is described in the Burger Chef cipher in at least 3 different places in the Burger Chef cipher. It's described as JFK's lobotomy. So not my words. This man's words, and my family of origin put the Burger Chef cipher together, and that's how they worded it. They worded it as JFK's lobotomy in this photo. Dick Nolet Sr. has just done what he was assigned to do, which was blow off JFK's head. That's him right there. So that's what all of this is going to go back to, is this day in Dallas, what they call in the Burger Chef cipher, they call it the Dallas deal, because Dick was promised many things for assassinating Kennedy, and one of the things he was promised was delivered, which was to give him complete protection. He would become a completely untouchable, quote unquote, asset after this day, and he would be allowed to do any heinous crime imaginable, including the torture and sexual assault of small children, up to and including the murder of said children and their dismemberment. And he would be allowed to continue to do this for 63 years, or I guess until his death and the death of his family members. But they're still alive today, and they're still doing this actively today. As a matter of fact, the disappearance of a woman in Oakland named Amy Hilliard is something that they've done as of late, as is the disappearance of Miss Nancy Guthrie in Tucson, Arizona. But this is Dick. This is a photo of him on November 22nd of 1963. And as you can see, Dick is quite proud of what he has just quote unquote accomplished. So moving forward, throughout history, throughout the past 63 years, some of the things that Dick has done to quote unquote entertain himself, or for quote unquote pleasure, has been creating the persona of the Zodiac and doing things such as abducting airliners, as he did in November of 1971, as one of his other alter egos, which was quote unquote DB Cooper. We're not going to get into that today, and I don't really give a shit about DB Cooper, to tell you the truth. Although it did seem to take a huge set of balls to jump out of the plane into the middle of the night into a storm like that. But anyhow, another story, another time. That's not today's story. Today's story is about what Dick did after he did the thing in Dallas, when he pulled the trigger on JFK and was the person that delivered the coup de grace. And what everybody will remember, especially as JFK's wife Jackie was just in shock, and she went searching for the remnants of her beloved husband's brain on the back of the car that day. This here is where Dick hid his name, which is my name as well, in his first cipher. Obviously, I wasn't alive then. I couldn't have done this. A lot of people are accusing me of doing a lot of this bullshit. Anyhow, you'd have to be the dumbest criminal ever born, or the most attention-seeking criminal ever born, to put on presentations like I've been doing. I'm trying to get the truth out there, as hard as it is for some dense motherfuckers to understand that. Anyhow, I'm going to try to cut back on my swearing today, guys, but this is just emotional, and I sometimes I swear when I get emotional. But this pipe here represents Aleister Crowley's smoking pipe. And this is the shape that Dick has hidden his name, which is my name because I was named after him, in. Everything begins at this upside down T right here, and it goes upwards and over and then back down and then back to the left. And what this represents is several different things. First of all, Aleister Crowley smoking pipe, but this represents the left-hand path, which completes the name, Nolet, over to this way. But it goes RR Nolet. So most important thing is that T there is at position 310 of this center section. And the clue that he sent was called something called the 13-hole punch card. After the cipher in the year 1970, on October 10th, or actually October 5th of 1970, he sent this card. And just imagine these black dots here were actually holes punched in the card. And what they represent is they represent something that was the precursor of the Church of Satan in San Francisco, which is called the Order of the Trapezoid. And these figures here, these holes are aligned to represent a trapezoid shape, and the trapezoid is pointing to the left. And once again, the Order of the Trapezoid was a small group, more intimate group of satanic people in San Francisco that eventually formed what was later called the Church of Satan in San Francisco. So this was the founding organization, but it was pointed to the left because all of these satanic organizations fall under something called the left-hand path, and it's basically describes their beliefs, which are contrary to Christian society. Once again, this is the key. This 13-hole punch card is the key to where the symbol is located, which begins the spelling of Dick's name in the Z408, which once again is this cipher, which is his debut cipher, and it was sent in 3 parts to the Chronicle, the Examiner, and the Vallejo Times Herald at the beginning of August of 1969. So once again, that upside down T will become very important because it represents the upside down T in mathematics represents the perpendicular symbol, which means when we see this symbol, we are meant to draw a crosshair symbol. And the crosshair symbol is basically, it's alluding back to what Dick did once again on this day. He was the trigger man in Dallas, okay? So that's why he picked that symbol. If you guys get where I'm going with this. He picked this symbol let's see, that would have been, 63, 6 years later, in less than 6 years later, after this event in Dallas, which was November 22nd of 1963, once again, Dick created the persona of the Zodiac, and this was his first cipher, okay? And once again, everything regarding the name goes back to this symbol here. This is where he has hidden it, behind a symbol that is a mathematical symbol, when drawn out, represents the crosshair symbol, which everybody knows is the symbol of the Zodiac Killer. So let's see. So moving forward, let's see. Moving forward, we move to we're going to move to this one first, actually. Moving forward, we move to this cipher. And the name of this cipher is the Scorpion cipher. And this Scorpion cipher was released in 1998 or thereabouts. And what it was the culmination of many years of communication between the man who raised me, Richard Dick Nolet Sr., and the host of America's Most Wanted, John Walsh. And he had sent Mr. Walsh many letters over the years, and in one of the letters he indicated that he was Mr. Walsh's quote unquote quote worst nightmare coming true. And what he was trying to tell Mr. Walsh was that he was actually the responsible party for John Walsh's son's unaliving in Florida. And what you guys have to understand is from 1963 on, Dick and his family members have been paid members of three letters organizations. And as such, they have had some forms of income from these three-letter organizations. And they basically what that allowed them to do was to have free travel all over the United States for them and their family members, and to be able to go and quote unquote do their thing, which they're sexual sadists and they're serial killers, and they've enjoyed murdering people from one end of the country to the other, from the top to the bottom, from the left to the right for the past 63 years. And I know how batshit crazy this all sounds, and I completely agree. It is entirely batshit crazy, but it is also the truth. Okay? So in this cipher, maybe we'll get time to talk about it today, but I am cutting this off at exactly, I'm not going over 2 hours. We're going to come back to these topics time and time again over the coming months. What you need to know in this cipher regarding John Collins' son, or John Walsh's son, Adam Walsh, is that Adam Walsh was born on the 14th, or he was born on November 14th of 1974, I believe. I could be wrong about the birth year, but I know that I think I'm getting it right. Anyhow, the birth month and day was 11/14, and a lot of the clues in the Scorpion cipher that allude to Adam Walsh and his murder and the final deposition of his remains occur at positions 11 and 14, and this might be hard for people to figure out, but these positions are at 11/14 because from right to left, this H is at 11, but it's also at position 14 from the bottom. Counting from the bottom up, it's at position 14. So, and this is a similar fashion. If we I forget how it goes. One of these is counting the wild card line on 14, and one is not counting them. So if we count the one, I believe that that this first line is what amounts to line 14, and then if we don't count the line 14 below, this ends up being 14 up with the H. Long story short, why this is important, these letters are important, is that is a Y and that is an H, and this is an A and this is an H. And what it's saying is Yeehaw Junction is where Adam's remains were left, intentionally left. YH is Yeehaw, and in this cipher, the left works with the right, and the top works with the bottom. It goes back to one of the old sayings from the Hermetic tradition, and it goes back to something called the Emerald Tablet. And the line basically goes, as above, so below. So in this cipher, the top works with the bottom, and the left works with the right. And in this particular case, these two symbols represent Yeehaw, which is Yeehaw Junction, and these two symbols over here represent the junction itself. This represents, obviously, the zodiac symbol in other instances. You have to understand that all of these symbols are what's called polysemous. Each symbol can represent more than 12 different meanings. And in this case, the first two that I'll point to is, in one case, it represents the zodiac killer's symbol. In another case, it represents an intersection. And all intersections are junctions, but not all junctions are intersections. And we won't get into that detail today, but what you need to know is this H and this Y are meant to work with these two symbols right here. And both of these symbols, each of these symbols represent a junction. This in the shape, obviously it's an intersection. This represents junction, but also this, believe it or not, in different instances it represents a C or a D. In this instance, it represents a J. And once again, it's meant to be combined with these symbols over here. It's very complicated. It's not meant to be easily seen or understood, guys. This is something, these ciphers were made more for their own quote-unquote entertainment than anything else. And you have to have an open mind to understanding these things, but all of the answers as far as what they did to the children are in these ciphers. And I'm not getting one fucking penny for doing these presentations. And because of the way that I was born, my name is not even my name, guys. So I'm not doing it for fucking publicity. I don't care about my fucking name and getting my name out there. I don't give a flying fuck, okay? And I don't give a flying fuck if you like my fucking swearing or not either. So fuck that. Sometimes I gotta vent. Sorry, guys. Now that hopefully that's out of my system, but maybe there'll be more fucks. I don't give a fuck. What I'm trying to say is I'm sharing the information with you. I'm giving you a lot of information here today for not a lot of cost. Actually, it's not costing you one fucking nickel. So take it or leave it. I don't really give a shit, but especially to the parents who might be listening to this, well, now sort of profanity-filled presentation. Sorry about that, guys. I hope you do reach out to me. I hope you do want some real answers, because Mr. Walsh, my family of origin watched you every week, and in my eyes, I respected you. There were very few people that I respected more than John Walsh of America's Most Wanted. Up until the point that I've found out recently that you were fooled by law enforcement into believing their narrative, which Otis O'Toole was a scumbag, and he probably did murder people, but he had nothing, absolutely nothing to do with the unaliving of Adam Walsh. And the answers are in these ciphers. And it just takes a very patient person willing to sit down and go through it with me to understand that your son was murdered by my family of origin. And I know that for a fact. And like I said, there's no reward in this. I was named after the man that murdered my biological father. So if you think I'm trying to get famous and trying to do anything with the name that was given to me, think again. I'm only in this for one thing, and that is to get the truth out there. And especially I would like to do that to the families of these victims, especially the child victims. And most of the victims, there's probably over 100 victims in this Scorpion cipher, and unfortunately most of them are children aged 3 to 17. So that's my motivation. And if I swear, I apologize once again, but it's really fucking frustrating to basically have to try to go against 3-letter organizations in describing the truth, and having to rely on them to quote unquote give me credibility. I have God backing me. As long as I have God and my dog, that's all I need. I don't need the fucking FBI. Okay. Anyhow, let's leave it at that. In the corners of this cipher are also numbers 11, 14. And believe it or not, Mr. Walsh, if you ever do get a chance to look at this presentation, please try to look past the profanity. I did not realize I was in a little bit of a mood today. But it's very frustrating having to come forward and appear like the quote-unquote weirdo or freak, and to try to get the truth out there for things that I had nothing to do with myself. These are crimes of my family of origin, and I'm nothing like them. Getting back to the truth here, I have not looked at this cipher in over a year, and I was a little bit startled to see the other day that two names are spelled out in the bottom here, and I knew that Tosho Honda was one of them. Tosho Honda was unalived at the home of my family in Napa. Contrary to what law enforcement will tell you, the person that is serving life in prison for the murder of Tosho Honda did not even know where his body was to be located. And that is because that person had nothing to do with the abduction or murder of Tosho Honda. This cipher gives the actual answers. Tosho Honda was unalived and decapitated in the family home that I grew up in, Napa, California. And all of this is pictured right here. That is Tosho Honda. Tosho Honda. His name is spelled out here. I'm not going to go into it because it takes a long time, and this is not supposed to be the focus of today's presentation. I will get into it at a future date. But for now, what you need to know is most of these symbols down on the bottom two lines here have to do with the family home in Napa. And that's very important because Adam's name is spelled out in symbols on the second line here. And this symbol actually represents Adam. That is a sideways M and W for the last letter in Adam's name and the first letter in his last name. Long story short, what's really important, Mr. Walsh, is that your son is most likely, his remains, at least as far as his body, most likely, if I had to bet money one way or another, if I was forced to bet money on it, I would bet that Adam Walsh's remains are under the built-in swimming pool at my family's home in Napa, California. That pool was installed in the spring of 1985 or 1986. And those dots right there represent victims that were interred under the pool and around the pool, under the decking, the flagstone decking of the pool. And because of the date of Adam's murder, of being in 1981, I am of the firm belief that that the man that I called my father and my brother did place victims' remains both around the swimming pool, under the decking, but also very likely under the pool itself. And some of those victims were likely to have included 12-year-old Tina Sharp. And according to the cipher here, the definite victim whose body is interred or was interred, I don't know if it's still there or not. If it's under the swimming pool, it would still be there. If it's a part of the decking, perhaps they moved it. But what I'm saying is early victims of my brother and father were placed as trophies underneath and around the swimming pool here at the home in Napa, California. And it's a beautiful kidney-shaped swimming pool that's surrounded with natural flagstone decking. And like I said, that represents the diving board for the swimming pool on the left here, and those little dots represent victims that were hidden there. This word spells out a word scramble. These letters here, these characters. This is a B. This is an O. This is a D. This is an upside down Y. Okay, which is represented as a semi-human looking figure. Once again, BODY. This is at position 11 from right to left. It's at position 11, and from top to bottom, it's at position 14. Once again, it represents Adam Walsh, and his body, once again, BODY, was placed either beneath the swimming pool at my family's home of origin, at the family home in Napa, California. The kidney-shaped swimming pool is right here. It's also represented by this figure and this figure, and the box shapes represent the that they put the victim's remains in a box, which once again is repeated up on this line, the fourth line down, with BOX and BOUND, so box bound. Once again, this gives us specifics, though. This only took me 20,000 hours to find and to piece together. So 4 years of my life and 20,000 hours to get these answers. If anybody appreciates the commitment I've put to this. So once again, as you can see, the letter B, it's a headless figure. This Adam was beheaded, obviously. His head was left in the canal at mile marker 126 in Yeehaw, at Yeehaw Junction in Florida. This symbol also on this side corresponds to Yeehaw Junction. It repeats the theme from the upper right-hand side of the cipher. This symbol here meaning junction, but also meaning the man that raised me, the Zodiac killer Richard Nolet Sr., who goes by Dick. So the left-hand side communicates with the right, and the bottom communicates with the top, as you can see. Once again here, this also represents the date of Kennedy's assassination. In a different way, if we count it a different way, it's line 2 down, second space in, which is the 22nd of November, because also it's the 11th position from left to right. It represents 1122, so it represents both 1114 in the case of Yeehaw Junction with the remains of Adam Walsh and the murder of Adam Walsh, but it also represents the 22nd of November of 1963. That is tied into the FBI here. What all of this is telling us is that the assassination of JFK was ordered by the FBI, and it was a true conspiracy. It was committed by both the FBI and the CIA. FBI is spelled right here, FBI. CIA is spelled diagonally right here, C-I, and A is the dark triangle here in the square here. So these organizations, along with the founder of the FBI, which was J. Edgar Hoover, he's represented by this H here with the dot. They made everything possible. They ordered the assassination of JFK on the 22nd of November of 1963, and they have been covering for the man who raised me and his family for the last 63 years, and continue to do so, most notably recently in the case of Nancy Guthrie in Tucson, Arizona. Both the local and the federal authorities they're deeply covering everything in that case. They want everybody to just walk away and forget about it, because what's underneath it is something really heinous, and it's the biggest secret in American in the whole history of the United States. This is most likely the biggest secret ever. In the cipher, this position here is at the 36th position if we count the wildcard line and count from starting here, and we count back to the left, which once again is the left-hand path of Satanism. This represents 36, which is the Lyndon B. Johnson. Also knew what was happening as far as the assassination of Kennedy, and was one of the ones that benefited from his assassination. So he's represented right here as number 36 as the shooter. So this is indicating that Lyndon B. Johnson was one of the ones that agreed to this conspiracy to unalive JFK, the 35th president. JFK is represented as the figure here, who, once again, his right head is being blown off by the gunman here at position 36. In order to count this as 35, after we count this first line as 36, this is once again is a wild card line. It can either be used or it can be completely disused or discounted. So in this case, in the second case, we don't use it. When we do not count the wild card line, this figure becomes the 35th President of the United States at number 35. Okay, what he is positioned under is this symbol here is the upper portion of the Satanic Cross, also known as the Cross of Leviathan. And the man who raised me, believe it or not, considers himself to be the Antichrist and the personification of Leviathan himself. And this all here indicates that the killing of JFK was a satanic sacrifice. And not only was the man who murdered JFK satanic and is satanic, and his whole family is satanic, aside from me, thank God, but many members of the quote-unquote elite, including some very high up people in the FBI and CIA, they also are satanic. And if you're listening to this, Mr. Walsh, you have to know that the abduction, torture, and the horrible things that they did to your son were very likely done by a group of individuals from the FBI. And the blue van that was seen was likely an FBI van. And anyhow, I don't have solid proof of that, but everything I've read, some of the reports said that there were multiple masked men in the van that was in the parking lot when when Adam was abducted. Anyhow, it all leads me to believe that this was an ordered hit, and that Adam was targeted. I've also read that that John Walsh was a part of something called the Paradise Hotel, and names and places and dates are very important to this organization. And the name Paradise would have been something that would have attracted some unwanted attention from this group. But following this line, once again, the shooter is down here. He's represented at number 36, which represents Lyndon B. Johnson and his interest in this whole thing. Once again, this is a satanic sacrifice. It goes up here. That's satanic. And it's indicating that this was a satanic sacrifice. Furthering that theme, it continues up here, and this figure here is a second figure. It also pierces through the right side of that figure's head. This position represents all satanic sacrifices. The victims can change, but this never does change. This is position 6-6, and I'll show in a little bit how this ties into JonBenet Ramsey. These three symbols represent JonBenet Ramsey's home at 755 15th Street. In the case of JFK, it's saying once again that he was a satanic sacrifice, and it doesn't just go by the satanic beliefs that the man who raised me. It also goes, this country is satanic at heart, okay, whether people believe it or not. Everybody likes to believe one country under God and all that and everything we've been indoctrinated with. But the truth is, at the very high elite, even above the highest politicians, there is a group of satanic individuals that are running the whole society is run by this very dark group of people. And one thing that they enjoy is sacrificing people, and one thing that they especially delight in is doing horrific things to children. Once again, in this cipher, 90% of the victims are children from age 3 to 17. And sorry if I'm speaking with a shaky voice here today, guys, and sorry if I swear. And sorry if I come across as sounding completely batshit fucking crazy sometimes, but I'm literally communicating all of this with an active threat of death over my head. Speaking out against these people or these organizations and the people involved is not something that most people don't make it this far, is what I'm trying to say. And they do name me as a target in the Burger Chef cipher, and I am supposed to be unalived in the coming days, weeks, or months, and so I'm sharing all of this with that threat hanging over my head, is what I'm trying to tell you. So, and once again, I'm not doing it for money. I'm not doing it for fame or acclaim, because I have no attachment to my name. As I said, my actual biological father was murdered by the man that I'm named after. So hopefully most people can understand why I do not have any attachment to my name. And if you don't, well, you probably should click off this presentation, because you need to have some sort of you need to have pretty much like a 10-pound brain to understand a lot of what I'm talking about in this presentation. And this presentation is not for everybody. This presentation is also not for people that are stuck in believing that we come from a God-fearing, quote-unquote Christian society, because most of that is just complete hogwash bullshit. I'm not going to get into that. But right here, once again, this symbol, this is a Venus symbol here at position 6-6. I will get into how it represents JonBenet Ramsey, who was murdered in her own home on the 26th of December of 1996, and she was age 6. So she was definitely a satanic sacrifice. But continuing up through here, we're going to continue tracing this for a little bit. As you can see, the line passes through X. This X here represents Dealey Plaza. All of these symbols here represent Dick here at 512, represent Badgeman, which one of the photos showed him shooting the actual shot from the grassy knoll. This is the time that it occurred, 12:20. This depicts that there were 3 gunmen, but also there were different 3-letter organizations that were all involved. And this is permanently tethered to X100, which is the presidential limousine. The presidential limousine is seen right here. This symbol here represents Plaza. This triangle represents a letter D. So it's Dealey Plaza. And once again, this is what made all of the crimes from 1963 committed against children from one end of the country to the other, literally from Washington, D.C., to Napa, California, to Boulder, Colorado, to Florida. Everybody's children that was lost, whether it be 3-year-old Tosho Honda or Adam Walsh, who was 6 years old, or Kevin Collins from San Francisco. All of this was made possible and protected by 3-letter organizations, and it all goes back to what's called the Dallas Deal in the Burger Chef cipher, which we'll rejoin here in a second. The Burger Chef cipher describes it as the Dallas Deal, and all of the crimes from Dick Nolet and his entire extended family have been protected over the last 63 years because of a deal. It's called a quid pro quo, something for something. Basically, it's you wash my back, I wash your back, I protect you, you protect me, and we keep each other's secrets, and we keep everything hidden and in the dark. That's what's been going on, and it all goes back to this secret, which is the Dealey Plaza Dallas Deal. when Dick unalived JFK. I know how this sounds completely batshit, apeshit crazy, and that's because it is. This has been a huge conspiracy that a lot of people in power have known about. I'm not a quote unquote genius, guys. I may have a high level of pattern recognition, and I may be a borderline genius as far as the ciphers are concerned, just because I've more than anything, I have an incredible amount of patience and doggedness to me, and I've put the time in and the repetitions in, and I've done the work, is what I'm trying to say, guys. But I'm also trying to say that many people, and especially people in power and people from three-letter organizations, have known about these secrets, some of them for 63 years, going all the way back to the day that this happened in Dallas. I'm sure very few of them are still surviving, but their relatives have known, and it's what I'm trying to say is, while this may come as a complete shock to a lot of people, a lot of people in power have known about this forever. And before I forget, X represents the X that still marks a spot at 498 Elm Street in Dealey Plaza. That's where JFK, that's where his head was blown off. Once again, according to the Burger Chef cipher, it describes it as a lobotomy. 3 different times it describes it as lobotomy. This represents a J. This represents a F. And in the box here is a letter K. It's upside down. So it's hard to describe it, but basically the top here, the left side becomes the top, and the legs are the triangle inside the box. So JFK, and once again, he's making another little sadistic joke here too. The president was known as Jack. A lot of people knew him as Jack. So what the joke is here is that Jack is in the box, and that goes along with this, which is box bound. And box bound in this case represents a casket. So Jack was box bound because he had been shot here and his head had been blown off. So now he becomes Jack in the box. Hopefully you guys can see that. But that one little symbol there is a big, hidden, very sadistic joke, which represents the letter K in a box. And like I said, that represents Jack in a box, which represents the job had been done, and Kennedy was boxed up, put in a casket, and that allowed the Vietnam War to march on. And what it allowed was a lot of people to become incredibly wealthy, but the one person that they forgot about was Dick Nolet. And Dick Nolet was not going to be forgotten about. And as we will see, as I will soon illustrate, Dick Nolet, who, I know I'm throwing a lot of information out there at you guys, but Dick Nolet writes daily under this website, and you can reach out to him and you can read some of the things he writes about. But basically, he has openly admitted to a lot of his crimes, although he uses pseudonyms and deflection and misdirection and redirection and all the tactics that the CIA and the FBI have taught him. He does, in between, what I'm trying to say is, in between all of the crap and all of the lies, you can see the actual truth on his website here. And he goes by the name RubySlaw32, and this is the address. But we're going to go and describe some of this today. And like I said, I'm probably going to cut it off at 2 hours today. And I know this presentation is bouncing all over the place. And like I said, there's too much information to share in one presentation. And and I'm going to have to come back and revisit this many times, I'm sure. In the Burger Chef cipher, line 17 up represents the year of JFK's birth, which is 1917. So on this line, this is a letter substitution cipher, which means certain letters have been removed from each and every line from top to bottom. The letters that we have to replace those missing letters with correspond to the letter number in the alphabet, such that the fourth line down corresponds to letters D and Q. And once again, that corresponds to the 4th and 17th letter of the alphabet, which is letters D and Q. And once we do that, different messages are spelled out. And first of all, the left works with the right once again. Over here we get D-A-L-L, and then it's completed over here with the letters A-S, which is Dallas Deal, and the D-L is right here. So what all of this is saying, and by the way, the letters L throughout this cipher, the letters L can and most often do represent the letters J. So on this line, the birth date and death date of JFK are represented by letters L, F, the L's, the F, and the K represent JFK's birth date and his murder date. Let's see. So obviously the cipher begins with "we kill" up here in the top left, and it describes many different situations on who they have murdered. But the first, the story that we're going to stick to right now is JFK specifically. Right here, on line 2 down, there's a word scramble that stretches throughout the whole line. And one thing that is required is that you reuse one of the O's. But this is the first case of where the word lobotomy is mentioned in a word scramble. The second being line 10 down. Line 10 down right here. There's also a word scramble with lobotomy. And then once again on line 8 up. So 8 up from the bottom is the third instance of the word lobotomy. So I'm going to go through some of these cards, guys. So lines 4 and 17. So basically, if you count from the top down or from the bottom up, there'll be line 14. But those lines are actually also line 17 if you count from a different direction. So for instance, if you count from the bottom up, line 4 down becomes line 17. And what that corresponds to is 1917, JFK's year of birth, okay? That's what you need to know. So I'm just going to go through these cards, guys. I made them for a reason. On line 2 down, the word lobotomy is made in a word scramble. Carrying down to the line beneath that, when we replace with the letters C and R because it's the third line down, and it's the 18th line from bottom to top, which is the letter R. Words that we come up with are car day, cry day. They all indicate that JFK was shot in his car. And once again, it continues from lobotomy. Also in this area are the words, I guess a little further down, we come up with the words roulette and wallet, or your wallet. But most importantly is the word Camelot and Titwillow, and that occurs on line 3 down. And once again, Camelot refers to the JFK, and Titwillow refers to one of the Zodiac's famous, one of his favorite sayings was from the Mikado, the play The Mikado. And in the passage, there's a passage about the quote-unquote Dicky bird, And the Dicky bird, I guess Dick saw himself in the passage, and basically that passage sees the Dicky bird commit suicide by drowning itself in the wave, and it was all supposedly the bird was very sad. The Dicky bird was very sad because of unrequited love. So let's see. So once again, this is a letter replacement cipher. Using this method, we replace with letters C and R on line 3 down, and this forms the word Camelot. And once again, that is formed right here. We have to remember, we insert a C throughout this whole cipher. It's ironic. Thank you, God. The card that just came up as I started talking about this. Throughout this whole cipher, letters M and W can completely rotate. So you have the picture here for you guys. Just picture Vanna White turning letters M or W. Anytime you see an M, it automatically can and often does represent a letter W, and vice versa, such that the W in wallet becomes the M in Camelot. Okay? So what he is trying to explain here is that there was something called the Dallas deal, which I think I just started explaining to you guys. But because Dick was promised untold wealth and riches would be paid to him after he pulled the trigger on JFK, and because that was not, basically they never honored that promise, a lot of people became very, very wealthy over the Vietnam War. Dick has become very, very resentful, and one thing you don't want to do is to create more resentment within a psychopathic serial killer, especially one as sadistic and hateful as Dick Nolet is. Well, for the past 63 years, Dick has not been able to make the people in charge, the elites, pay for the price for them lying to him. But what he has been able to do is he's been able to make countless men, women, and children, especially women and children, pay the price of the Dallas deal. And see, Dick was told that he would be rich and very, very wealthy and never have to work a day in his life after pulling the trigger on Kennedy on November 22nd of 1963. Unfortunately, he was lied to. And what I'm trying to say is, because he was lied to, there has been a toll to be paid. And in Dick's mind, winning is everything. Winning has always been everything. And he has sayings like, I will win, which is repeated throughout my childhood. But also one of his sayings is, I will fix their ass. And basically each and every child victim and female victim, or even adult male victim that he and his family have murdered over the last 63 years, a big part of it is payback. And in the Burger Chef cipher here, one of the things that's mentioned repeatedly is that a toll will have to be paid. And I'm just going to, right here, it spells everything out right here. These 3 T's represent the targeting of JFK, and they're aligned. There's 3 of them, and they're aligned at position 5. So from right to left, it's at position 5. And what this describes is the unaliving of the 35th President of the United States, and it coincides with the word wallet. And it also coincides with the number 74, which represent my brother's birth year, which is 1974. So this is the spelling of the last section of the name Nolet. It's completed here with this E, which falls at position 2-1, which is the date of the murder of Nancy Guthrie. This T here is saying that it spells out your wallet. What it's illustrating is that they had a deal that they call the Dallas deal. It was certain things, including extreme amount of wealth, was to be paid after JFK was unalived, and they never, those in power that made the agreement with the man who raised me, never followed through and never paid him, and he ended up having to work a difficult governmental job and work his way up like anybody else. But his whole life has been filled with deep resentment, hatred, and he's been enacting payback on all of his victims from 1963 onward. And I'm not to say he was a serial killer before this happened, so chances are he would have still continued to quote unquote do his thing. But this failure for them to follow through with their promises has only tremendously amplified his hatred towards the government and his desire to basically pull out all the truth and show them for the liars and the hypocrites that they basically are. This spells out the word toll, Toal, and this applies to each and every victim that was unalive from 1963 to this point. And it also applies to me because, according to the Burger Chef cipher, they want to unalive me. Well, A, because I'm sharing this truth now, but also because I was born, I was the biological son of one of their victims, a doctor from South Lake Tahoe by the name of Dr. Charles Hollingsworth. So, once again, this stands for deal, DL. We insert a D on this side that it becomes DALL. It's finished on the right-hand side with AS. We have the Dallas deal. It's at position 17 up, which represents the birth year of JFK. Okay. Continuing on, we've already mentioned this, but I'll mention it. We invert the W in wallet with the letter replacement method. Here we insert the letter C and R, and we get the word Camelot. Okay. So that occurs right here on this line at this position here. This is a little bit of a word scramble, but what it's describing is the fall of Camelot. It's the Dallas deal, and like I said, the lobotomy is mentioned 3 times in the Burger Chef cipher. Let's see. Oh yeah, and I don't think I finished describing that position right here. This position where the 3 T's converge right here. This is the spelling of the last part of the Nolet name, but with the letter replacement method in 3 different directions, actually, it spells out LEC. Once again, the C is replaced here because it's line 3 down. LECT, and then E and R are replaced by position, and what we get is the word Lecter, as in Hannibal Lecter. So these are very sadistic people. The family of my all of my family of origin are very, very sadistic, and they delight in torturing women and children especially, and they're actually from time to time, on special occasions, they do consume the flesh of their victims, and they are cannibalistic. So Hannibal Lecter was a serial killer who was cannibalistic, and what all of this is saying is that because it connects with wallet, and it connects to the 35th president here. And once again, going back to the zodiac's original symbol, if you turn these T's upside down, what you get is the symbol in mathematics that represents the perpendicular symbol. And so just picture these represent crosshairs essentially, but they also represent, they can represent different things: targeted, tortured, tied, tortured, and terminated, because those are all of the things that they do. But more than anything, this tells a story, okay? It goes back to 1963, everything that was promised to the man, the unalived JFK, and he was promised untold wealth, and a lot of people did make incredible wealth from the from what's called the Dallas deal. A lot of people became incredibly wealthy. Dick was left out of all of that, and he was completely ignored. His thing, he had done his job, and nobody followed through as far as the monetary things that were promised to Dick. So that's going to carry over quickly. Let's see. That's going to carry over quickly as we talk about JonBenet Ramsey. Let's see. So right here, once again, as above, so below. Line four up here. Line 4 up is basically line 17 down, and that line works with the line that we've just been discussing, which is primarily line 17 up. Once again, it goes back to the birth year of JFK in 1917. So as we come down here to line 4 up, once again it's line 17 down. This whole line describes the unaliving of JonBenet Ramsey, and I guess we'll begin with this symbol over here. If you guys can see the letter E in the word net, on this line we replace with the letters Q and D. And the most important thing that you need to know, well, one of the most important things you need to know about this line is that it is meant to entirely be paired with the equal but opposite line up above, which is line 17 up that we just described. When we replace with the letters Q and D here on the letter E net, what we get is QED. So what he's trying to describe here is that because the Dallas deal was not, they made false promises, they never came through. That that a toll would have to be paid. See, TOAL. This is spelled in many different ways, every way except the correct way throughout the cipher. Once again, these are phonetic spellings. It's another form of obfuscation, but it can be spelled TOL like it is here, TOEL. It's spelled in many different ways, but you can spell it any different way. The point remains the same. The point is those in power lied to Dick, and in return, he is taking out his quote-unquote toll, for being screwed over in the Dallas deal by those in power. He's taking it out on all kinds of victims. Untold men, women, and children have been unalived and tortured, and horrible things have been done to them over the last 63 years, all going back to the primary reason, as far as Dick is concerned anyhow, is that he was lied to, and they never delivered on his promises, is what I'm trying to say. On the promises that were made to him, I should say. So QED basically means, it's like used in either mathematics or logic, and it means thus it has been proven. Whenever you do a proof in logic, that is what's mentioned at the bottom. It's QED. So what he's saying is the unaliving of JFK, or the unaliving of JonBenet Ramsey, was as a direct result of not being paid for the Dallas deal. And some of you guys that know the JonBenet Ramsey story may know that JonBenet's father became very wealthy by selling his company to I don't know if it was Halliburton or as a company that was involved in a lot of the defense contracts with the United States military. And it was a computer company, and one of the three major players in my family of origin that are serial killers was in that computer field. And anyhow, the family was very jealous of the father, John Ramsey, and the murder of their daughter was intended to destroy their whole family, and it was payback towards not just them, but towards all the way back to 1963 and what was promised and what was not delivered. So there was a lot of jealousy involved, and jealousy was one of the major guiding forces in the targeting of JonBenet Ramsey. So once again, as above, so below, as to the left, so to the right. That's what I've been pointing out as we go along. Sorry, I'm going through these cards. Some of the things I've already mentioned, guys. But Titwillow is, once again, from the Mikado, and it goes back to the Dicky bird. And that's one of the things that is hidden in the word scramble right here on line 3 down to the right here. It goes from Camelot to Titwillow. Let's see. Oh, yeah. And on the lower level here, the word todo is Spanish for everything. And let's see, where is it? Let's see. On line 4 up, I believe it's 4 up. Yeah, right here. We insert the letter D right here. And so it's todo. So basically he's saying everything that was done to JonBenet Ramsey goes back to the, like I said, to the Dallas deal. I think we're going to start by describing some of this line. Sorry for being so scattered today, guys. It's way too much to talk about and way too much to bite off. I'm going to have to come back and revisit this one and try to get a much more organized, focused approach to it. But I want to describe what line 4 up says. 4 up says, everything is about JonBenet Ramsey, by the way, in the way I'm going to describe it. This says, killed at house, and it describes, and the 0 throughout the whole puzzle, by the way, represents anybody who's Christian. Anybody who's Christian is a 0. So they had, I don't know, remember the Ramsey's beliefs, but they were Christian. So killed at house, 0, but also hot tart tot. They describe her as being the hot tart tot. And the reason they describe her as being that is because she was obviously a beauty queen, and she was involved in the competitive pageants, and so they call her the hot tart tot here, or the hot tart, either way. I think it's actually supposed to be hot tart, but they're making an insult and describing her and her beauty pageant stuff here. Continuing on, the TT represents that she was targeted and her family was targeted, but the OOs on this line fall at positions 5 and 6, and they represent JonBenet Ramsey, her mother, Patsy Ramsey, and they call her 0 for 2 different reasons. Number 1, she was a Christian, and number 2, her illness returned after the death of her daughter. Her illness returned, and she Patsy Ramsey succumbed to her illness before she reached the age of 50. So they're saying that they basically, with these zeros, they're saying that they won. Okay, that she's dead, Patsy's dead, and they won. The once again, position is everything in the cipher, and numbers are everything. And 5-6 equals the mother, Patsy Ramsey, deceased. As we move forward to the right, in one way, is the L represents one thing, which is the lower level of the Ramsey home. JonBenet Ramsey, her body was found on the lower level. But also, these are meant to equal J's. So, once again, they represent both. They represent L for lower level, which is the basement, but they also represent letter J. And this continues on saying JonBenet, it spells out JonBenet, once again, phonetically. It also represents JonBenet's father, who was born on December 7th of 1943, I believe. And it could be 43 or 45. But either way, 45 would represent this letter, which once again is a J. And 43 would represent the letter N. Oh, I don't remember. I don't remember if it's a 40... if he's born in 43 or 46. Sorry, guys. I have it written down, but I don't know where that card is at right now. But long story short, the targeting of JonBenet, the daughter, was designed to inflict as much pain and destruction upon each and every family member of the Ramsey family as is possible. And as we get to the Scorpion cipher, I want to finish with that and describing how that more visually shows what they intended to do to the entire Ramsey family than the Burgershef cipher does. But let me go through these cards first. QED, thus it has been proven, shown, and illustrated. Once again, the JonBenet line links with the JonBenet line that I just described here at line 17 down. Completely ties in with the line up above. And by the way, before I forget to mention it, these O's here represent Department of Defense, because we insert the D's on this line. And what this is describing is the Dallas deal, but it's describing, as you can see, TOP here, and then there's the word Oro. They're saying that this is the Department of Defense's most top secret golden file, that this is the most heavily guarded secret in the whole Department of Defense. And that's the way it has been for the last, almost the last 63 years. In November, it will be 63 years. So once again, this line, which is line 17 up, ties to line 17 down, which describes from left to right, it completely describes the murder of JonBenet Ramsey. And I want to go through the line once again. Once again, it means killed at house, hot tart. But one thing I want to describe here is the murder weapon that was used was a ligature that was made, at least in part, it was made from the handle of one of Patsy Ramsey, her paintbrushes. And what this is describing is that tool. They describe it as the art tool. So the art tool was the paintbrush handle that was turned into the garrote that was used as the ligature to strangle JonBenet Ramsey to death. So once again, art tool is the murder instrument used in the unaliving or murder of JonBenet Ramsey. And I'm going to go through some of these cards before we transition into the other cipher. So once again, that just describes, sorry for my crappy handwriting, guys, but the pen I used was too big too. Once again, on a lot of the lines, whether it be line 17 down or 17 up, the L's, a lot of times the L's convert to letter J. So let's see, we'll save that one. So once again, as above, so below, the top works with the bottom. QED, JonBenet was murdered because non-payment for the JFK, the Dallas deal. So I know this presentation is scrambled, and I apologize again for the profanity. There's just so much to describe. I could spend a year describing this, and somehow I'm trying to fit it into 2 hours, and it's very frustrating. But this is the Latin meaning. This is the Latin meaning of QED. It means quod erat demonstrandum, that which was to be demonstrated, and it's mathematical proof, and it's also used at the end of a logical argument. So once again, QED is what is formed in the net. The word net here, the E becomes QED, just to remind everybody. Let's see, I'm trying to, yeah. And so what he's saying is, he's also saying, see, I told you so, I win. Because one way or another, he was going to exact his revenge. And him, Dick Nolet, the man I'm named after, and his entire family, my family of origin, have spent the last 63 years torturing a lot of children and women, and men also, but mostly women and children. And it's all as payback for once again non-payment for what is called the Dallas deal. The Dallas deal was he was promised untold riches for unaliving JFK. And once again, I know all of this sounds completely batshit crazy, and once again, I'm completely agreeing with you. But don't shoot the messenger. I am only the messenger here, and I have not been promised one red nickel from putting on this presentation, and you can judge me all you want. Call me crazy as a striped-assed ape. I don't care what you call me, but I'm going to continue getting my truth out there, and this is the actual truth. Once again, the Department of Defense, top secret golden file. It's talking about the JFK, that was funny. I'm tired. Sorry, guys. I did get some rest too, but apparently not enough. Department of Defense, top secret, what they call the golden file here in the Burger Chef cipher. And that's mentioned here once again on line 17 up. It all ties to the major secret that has been kept since 1963. But once again, it's known by a lot of people in power. Oh, I'd forget to mention this. So Mike and Dick call themselves the ligature gods. And they came into being as a direct result of non-payment in the Dallas deal for what the man who raised me did to JFK on the morning of November 22nd of 1963. He was the shooter from the grassy knoll, actually up above the grassy knoll behind the picket fence in the area called the rail yard up there. But this line here, right here, that means ligature god, okay? And it specifically tie this N here and this G here specifically tie into what was done to Nancy Guthrie, which was she was tortured with ligature, and she was anally raped for 4 hours in her own home. And this word down on the bottom right here, anal O, defines what they enjoy doing, which is torturing their victims by repeatedly choking them out with the ligature, allowing them to revive, but the whole time they are raping them repeatedly. And once again, Nancy Guthrie, this is 5 in Nancy's address, and I believe this is the 8. It's been Yeah, I believe this is the 8. It's been a while since I researched that part of it, but I think that's the 5, that's the 8, and then the 2 and the 0 are the N down here in the lower left-hand corner. But once again, all positions 2, 1 equal Nancy Guthrie, and this is just one of 4. But once again, that completes Nancy's address, because in this case, it's surrounded by the O's on the right and above. So once again, her address, I believe, was 5820. I hope I'm getting that right, guys. It's been a long time. It's been months since I researched that, but I believe that's right. And that's, anyhow, the whole thing spells out they tortured her and raped her repeatedly for hours. And once again, each and every murder from 1963 on has been done with a incredible amount of hatred and vitriol, because basically, the man who raised me, the man that I called my father, hates the government, hates the country, and, well, despises humanity all the way from men, women, and children. He has a lot of hate in him, and it was only amplified by the Dallas deal and being lied to. When he was lied to, he's the kind of person that does not let things go, and he was lied to in the Dallas deal, and he thought his life could have been much more easier, and he was promised a magical life of every comfort imaginable, and none of that was delivered. And what I'm trying to say is, whether it be Nancy Guthrie or JonBenet Ramsey, or Adam Walsh or Kevin Collins, believe it or not, guys, for the last 63 years, my family of origin, led by the man that I'm named after, Richard Dick Nolet Sr., has been torturing and unaliving people as quote-unquote payback for being lied to as part of the what they call the Dallas deal. So when you do the letter replacement on the third line down, one of the things you get is the word RAC, wall, and that's one of the things that they enjoy doing. Is some of the children that they've abducted, they've actually held as prisoner for a long time, including Kevin Collins and also Bryce Laspisa, I believe, was also one of their long time victims. But when they hold them as a prisoner, they torture them every day. They rape them. They chronically rape them and torture them, and I believe that they're chained against a wall, is how they're held for either weeks, months, or years. So, and once again, the L and the J, I guess I wrote out what each thing represents there, like I just explained on the line 17 down or 4 up. So from this point, we're going to continue back. Let's see. And once again, let's not forget that these are real people, and real people were actually murdered in this situation, guys, and for the last 63 years. And sorry if I space out sometimes, guys. Sometimes I'm suddenly reminded of the risks that I'm taking in presenting all of this to you, and the risks versus the payout. Sometimes I question that. Like, I am financially, I'm not getting anything out of this, and I'm literally risking my life. Sometimes I just wonder. I think it's my self-protection goes back and kicks into gear. And it's like, why are you even doing this? Part of me says you should not be doing this. Self-preservation says I should not be talking about any of this, But anyhow, I'm too far into it now to stop, guys. And all of these all of these beautiful children, all of these beautiful children have been the price to be paid. And that's the man who raised me believes that he is more powerful than God himself. And in selecting each of these children for torture and for murder, he's played the role of God. Let's see. So, moving forward, what we need to do is we need to find the set of cards that I need next. And I know I'm leaving out a lot, guys. I'm going to come back and probably do many presentations on this. Many more presentations. And let's see. So, I need to get my cards here. We're only going to do about half an hour more, and then I need to wrap it up, guys. Just like I told you before, I don't have a good connection to upload these. So, this is back to the 1998 Scorpion cipher. And for the last 30 years, actually close to 40 years, Dick Nolet has been trying to communicate and trying to get his truth out there. And a part of that was the letters, the many letters that he wrote, ominous letters that he wrote to John Walsh, the host of America's Most Wanted. And those began in the early 1990s and continued through at least 1998. And the culmination of those letters was this Scorpion cipher, what they call the S5. And in the S5 here, one of the most important things is the description of the murder of JonBenet Ramsey. And that is described in many different places, but primarily it's described on the fourth line down, right here, where this begins with the word box. And it transitions over here into the word bound. But the symbols in between, from this symbol all the way back to the first symbol, all represent JonBenet Ramsey or members of the Ramsey family. If you look at this in the dark, if you just look at the dark part of this first character, what you'll eventually see is a angular J shape that represents JonBenet herself. The circle here represents the B in JonBenet. It's also in the form of a B, like an angular B. But this also represents the location, being Boulder, Colorado. This is in the shape of a boulder, a round boulder, but it's a letter B in the dark position. Moving over to the right here, there's a concealed C just on the right-hand side here. That's the letter C. It combines with this box here, which represents the letter O. I know it's weird, but all of this is meant to be concealed. It's not meant to be easily found or seen. So C, O, and the letters up above are supposed, in this case, they represent the letter R, L. So C, O, L for Colorado, Boulder, Colorado. What's most important on this line, though, is to represent, first of all, you need to know that JonBenet Ramsey, the home of the family in Boulder, Colorado, was located at 755 15th Street. So these symbols here represent a house shape. Taken together, these represent the lower levels, the squares, and the triangle represents the upper level. The triangle is at position 5-5. It's 5 down and 5 over from right to left. So that represents the 5 in 755, but also equally, both of these are at position 5. So either one of these could represent position 5 is what I'm trying to say. Position 7 is represented by the square on the left here, the lower left. So taken together, that's 755, and 15th is represented by the Roman numerals here. These X and V equals Roman numeral 15. XV equals 15. What is being said here is, once again, all of these symbols from Dick is represented here at the 512 because he was born on May 12th. This is the car represented, the JFK car. All of these symbols represent the unaliving of the 35th president, JFK, from this symbol to this symbol. This is a shooter. This is badge man. This is the time 12:20. This is 3 shooters and 3 three-letter agencies. This is the limousine. Okay, it's permanently tethered. Dick and the 3-letter organizations and the 3 shooters are permanently tethered together forever and ever thereafter as a part of their secret. One has to protect the other and vice versa. And what this is saying is that the murder of JonBenet Ramsey, who is represented here as the Venus figure, she is the Venus figure because she was a beauty queen, and Venus and beauty go together. And this is at position 6-6. And this never changes. The victims may change and the descriptions may change, but the central figure, being the Venus figure at position 6-6, represents satanic sacrifice, and that never changes. So in combination with JonBenet Ramsey, the numbers on the house can change. Okay, counting from left to right, you have position, this is position 7 for 755. Counting from right to left, this square becomes number 6. So once again, we're on line 6. It becomes number 6. Taken together with the figure here at position 6-6, what we're supposed to get is the 666. Okay, that's indicating satanic sacrifice. And by the way, JonBenet Ramsey was murdered on the 26th of December of 1996, and her age at the time of death was 6. So all of that would have been seen as auspicious in the eyes of my satanic family of origin, who in their religion, numbers are very, very important. Okay, I cannot overstress how important numbers are to their religious beliefs, and that corresponds with the age of the victim, as like Adam Walsh once again was 6 years old. But once again, going back to JonBenet Ramsey, she was 6 years old when murdered on the 26th of December of 1996, which ironically, I don't know if it was intended this way or not, but the father, Adam Walsh's father, John Walsh, his birthday, I believe his 51st birthday, I could be getting that wrong, but his birthday coincides with the murder date of JonBenet Ramsey, which is either incredibly ironic or was intentional by this group of killers I call my family of origin. So I don't know which, but either way, some people have no imagination, so I have to include the card like this. So once again, those symbols there become the house. Okay. Once again, these symbols here become this house, which in the case I'm describing it, become the Ramsey household at 755 15th Street in Colorado. And I guess I began to describe this. I didn't fully complete my thought. What he's saying here is, with the arrow pointing over this way, which once again,
X and V equals the 15th, which is 15th Street in Boulder, Colorado. He's reiterating the QED thing here, this because of that. So all of this goes back, I'm trying to complete the thoughts here, guys. All of this goes back to the Dallas deal, and he's saying it in a different way. Once again, the Scorpion cipher goes back almost 30 years into the past here. So he's been trying to tell his story for a long time, and at the time of the creation of the Scorpion cipher, Dick was suffering very poor health, and I believe he thought he was at the end of the road, and he shared a lot of information is what I'm trying to say. And I think one of the big reasons he shared a lot of information in the Scorpion cipher was because he thought his time on Earth was limited. But once again, the Dallas deal is being reiterated here. And it was also repeated over here. You guys can't see it, but in this symbol here, there's a tiny little A that's hidden here. And what this ties to is August 10th. This symbol aligns with 810 from the bottom up. It's line 8, position 10. This corresponds to Adam Walsh. And the reason I mention this is because right above it says QE, and this is completed with a D. This peace symbol represents JFK and the killing of JFK. But the peace symbol, it's a denuclearization symbol. So you can picture the letter D here and the letter N here. So Dick has represented himself as Kennedy's killer in his initials here, but he's also represented Kennedy, and he's represented D and N. Finally, this is the final letter of QED. So just picture D on the left side here. Like I said, the symbol for peace represents denuclearization. So QED, what he's saying is, in this instance, he's saying that the child murders, including Adam Walsh and including JonBenet Ramsey, all of this comes up and finds intersection and commonality at the symbol for JFK, the peace symbol, and also the other symbol for JFK, which is the limousine in Dealey Plaza. So, long-winded explanation. What we come to is the arrow once again pointing to the car. What Dick is saying is all of this goes back to those fucking bastards lying to me, and I'm going to make them pay, and I'm going to quote-unquote fix their asses, okay? That's language he would use. Goes back to the Dallas deal, okay? They lied to him. The elites lied to him. Those in power lied to him. So in return, all of the powerless little victims, including many women and children and men also, who have been unalived in the last 63 years. Ironically, I came across that. The day that Kennedy was shot was basically everything changed in the United States. Anything, it was like, it could go along with the whole theme of the day that the music died, and things were much different. I think a large part of the population knew what had actually happened. There are a lot of people in this country that do have common sense, and there used to be a lot of people, even a lot more, that had common sense. So what I'm trying to say is people knew in their gut that something was not right a long time ago. So going back to this line, things I don't want to forget to explain is that this here, just picture this P and this sword represent Patsy Ramsey. She was born in 1956, and those figures represent her. Whereas this figure and the sword and the Masonic spear also represent the father, JonBenet Ramsey. And taken together, this symbol, the P, and this symbol here represent the letter R being torn limb for limb apart from left to right. So what he's trying to say here is the murder of JonBenet, which she's represented, the daughter is represented in various symbols, including this one, and this one here. What is being said here is the murder of JonBenet Ramsey was intended to completely destroy and tear apart the Ramsey family, but especially John Ramsey. The spear is placed at position 12-7, and that's correlates with the birth date of the father, John Ramsey. And once again, all of this goes back to a deep jealousy towards John Ramsey, because he sold his computer firm to a company. I don't remember if it's Halliburton or another company, but one of the companies that specializes in a lot of defense contracts with the U.S. military. Anyhow, they acquired his company, and John Ramsey became a very wealthy man after that. And so, one of Dick's relatives is heavily involved in that field, computer field, and anyhow, I believe that John was targeted. Also, both the person from my family of origin and the Ramseys worked in the Atlanta area, and they did have that in common. They had the same computer field in common and the same location as far as their workplaces during that time frame, which was Atlanta. So all of this overlaps, but what it all boils down to is an incredible amount of vitriol and hatred, and just a putrid hatred for those in power, especially the elites, the unknown at the very top, the ones that are in the shadows. They promised Dick untold riches in what they describe in the Burger Chef cipher to be the Dallas deal. That was to be paid for the unaliving of JFK, and they never followed through. So in return, somebody had to pay the price, and in December of 1996, the person that was selected in that particular instance was the Ramsey family, John Ramsey, his wife Patsy, and their children, most especially JonBenet. So let's see. There's much more I'm skipping over here today, guys, and I apologize for that. But I just there's just too much to describe in one session. And once again, just imagine this house. This number represents two different numbers, though. It represents this particular square here on the left. It represents the number 6, and the number 7 represents the number 7 as far as the address, 755 15th Street, but it represents 6 in that it's supposed to be combined with the figure at 6-6, which once again is the Venus symbol, and it represents JonBenet Ramsey, who was quote-unquote collected by the man who I'm named after, Dick Nolet Sr. He has positioned himself also, he's positioned himself at 512, which is his birth date right here on the left, that musical symbol, but also position 86 right here. One of the reasons he's picked position 86 is it was JonBenet's birth date. And when my family of origin unalive somebody, they look at it as they have completely taken over that person's identity and essentially erased them. They've replaced their identity, and like I said, I guess they've replaced them is the best way of looking at it. Here at position 86, this is Dick representing himself as a combination of things. First of all, this is a symbol. You have to know the symbol radon. The symbol radon is represented by the numbers 86 because it has an atomic weight of 86, which once again corresponds to JonBenet's birth date of 8-6, or August the 6th. and all of this are basically lined up in a vertical column here. Just picture this figure here is collecting JonBenet from up here all the way down here through the figure, which is satanic sacrifice. And Dick resonated with the element radon because radon is a silent, completely odorless, silent, invisible killer that kills thousands of people every year, supposedly. And there's nothing you can do. It's something that is there. There are radon detectors, but very few people use them. And what I'm saying is, as America's greatest serial killer ever, Dick really resonated with the symbol radon, and the abbreviation for radon is RN. So he identified it that, and that is why this is placed at position 8-6, is because of the atomic weight of radon. As far as the figure itself, resembles an uprights in football, like the goalpost stanchion. Dick was a famous, well-known local football player in the area of Saco, Maine. He played at a school called Thornton Academy in the early 60s and was a football star. So that's one of the reasons he picked that symbol. But also, this is a modified version of the symbol from alchemy, which represents Uranus. And, well, sorry to be so graphic, guys, but anal rape is one of the things that my family of origin enjoys. They delight in doing that to their victims, whether it's a victim that they kill immediately or a victim that they hold prisoner for days, weeks, or years. So anally raping their victim is one thing that they enjoy, and Uranus is part of an inside joke. Like, basically, one of the jokes the man that raised me would be something to do with your ass. So your ass, your anus, it all goes along with the inside, very sadistic joke is what I'm trying to say. But let's see. So I don't know if I've made it clear enough, but in this cipher, a lot of the symbols tie in to the car here, and to the symbols representing the man who raised me's unaliving of JFK, and how he was paid to do that. Like I said repeatedly, it's called the Dallas deal in the Burger Chef cipher, and those in power did not honor their promises to him. They did honor part of the promise, which was to give him completely protected status for him and his family. They would never be convicted of anything. And they would mutually protect each other and each other's secrets up to and including the conviction of many innocent men for many of Dick and his family's murders. However, the part that they did not come through with was the financial promise of untold riches, and that's one of the reasons that Dick holds so much hatred for the United States government, for those in charge, but especially for the elites that are in the shadows up above. And he's a serial killer. He's sadistic. He enjoys and delights in torturing people psychologically and physically and sexually in every way possible. So don't get me wrong, he would still be doing this, but chances are, if those in power had paid him what he was promised, perhaps he would have stopped decades ago, and perhaps he would not have killed the thousands of people that I believe him to be guilty of. But either way, a part of the Dallas deal is that Dick and his family are never held accountable for any of the crimes. And I doubt that me coming forward and speaking about this is going to change anything. But either way, there are a lot of innocent little children involved in this whole story. And I'll just wrap up with photos of some of them. And I'm going to do more presentations, hopefully with less profanity and more clarity. Let's put it that way, guys. I'll shoot higher next time, and probably try to separate them out more, because I bit off more than I could chew in this presentation. But once again, this is Adam Walsh. He was 6 years old, and horrible things were done to him in Florida. And I know that my family of origin were responsible, and thankfully, Adam's family was able to get they found Adam's head in Yeehaw Junction in Florida back on the 10th of August of 1981. I do believe that there's a great probability that Adam's remains are concealed underneath the swimming pool of my family of origin's home in Napa, California. And that's what the Scorpion cipher spells it out very clearly on the lower two lines of the cipher, especially the lower left quadrant of the Scorpion cipher. And if they were hidden underneath the swimming pool, there's nothing that any of my family of origin could do to move that or conceal that. So the authorities might want to look into what I'm saying, is what I'm trying to say. Once again, JonBenet Ramsey, who was also 6 years old, just like Kevin Collins was. She was murdered on December 26th of 1996, age 6 years old. And once again, at 755 15th Street, which I've shown, I think, fairly clearly here in the Scorpion cipher. The thing you need to know is Dick has put all of this into ciphers for many decades now, and this is their form of communication, and it's taken me 20,000 hours in the last 4 years of my life to get these answers. And like I said, I'm not making one nickel from this, and I don't care about the publicity. I am the type of person that would rather nobody know my name. I'm basically sort of like a quiet hermit. I enjoy my peace and quiet, and I enjoy my anonymity. And there's no reason on God's earth that I would come forward and do this were it not for the child victims. And there's dozens and dozens of lesser known child victims in the Scorpion cipher. And I'm going to do many more presentations on JonBenet Ramsey, on Kevin Collins, and on Adam Walsh, simply because they're the more well-known victims of the Scorpion cipher. But also, in the case of JonBenet Ramsey, she is mentioned in ciphers that span decades, and it's very obvious in both ciphers, in the Scorpion cipher and in the Burger Chef cipher, that they're claiming responsibility for the murder of JonBenet Ramsey. And I just want people, I'd like to cooperate with some honest people from law enforcement and to actually get something done if possible. But my goal is to get the answers for these three victims who were victims of my family of origin. But eventually I'd like to get answers for the much more lesser known victims of the Scorpion cipher. And that's why I'm coming forward with all this. All right, guys. Sorry if I rambled all over the place, but hopefully you found some gems of wisdom in there in between. And I look forward to, like I said, to more presentations with less profanity and more clarity. And I apologize if I fell a little short today, but there's a lot to describe, and all of it makes me sound completely batshit crazy. Once again, it's because this story is so batshit crazy. Who would ever believe that the top three-letter agencies have been protecting these kind of secrets for 63 years? It's incredible. If anybody ever told me this story, I do not believe. I don't think I would believe somebody else telling this story. So what I'm trying to say is, for those of you that have skepticism or completely think I'm batshit crazy, I'll end with saying I forgive each and every one of you. But once again, I have nothing to gain by bringing this forward, and I'm not batshit crazy. I should be. I should be batshit crazy, and I should be completely gone from what I've survived in my life. But that's another story for a different time. Anyhow, I have a feeling that God wants me to make these presentations to bring out the truth, and whatever days or hours I'm left with, that's what I have to spend my time doing, is whether it's perfect or not, whether my voice is rattly, or whether I swear, whether I fail to mention certain things that I intended to mention originally. I'm just going to keep forgiving myself for not being perfect, continue making these presentations, and hoping that eventually the right person in law enforcement is able to partner with me and actually enact some changes and to get some justice for some of these victims, and more importantly than anything, to get their families the answers that some of them have been seeking for many decades. So, all right, with that in mind, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate those of you that have been in my corner from the very beginning, and I'm going to do my best to keep pushing through this. All right, thank you, guys. Have a great day.